During a remedial class in science, Miss Tuanco divided 3/5 of a big chocolate bar among her students. She gave 1/10 of the chocolate to each of her students. How many students attended the remedial class? So this is actually a problem that involves division of fractions. So for now, we are going to discuss how to divide fractions. So we will start with simple or dividing simple fractions. So when you divide, for instance, we have 3 over 7, and we are dividing this by 15 over, let's say, 35. There are 3 letters that I would want you to remember. So that letter is the letters K, F, and C. Does that sound familiar? KFC. So the K here stands for the keep. That means to say you have to keep the first term. So we simply just have to copy the first term. So that means we have 3 over 7. The F refers to the flipping, which means this has something to do with the reciprocal. So when you have 15 over 35, you have to get the reciprocal of 15 over 35. So basically, when you say reciprocal, this is actually the number that once we multiply by 15 over 35 will result to 1. Okay, so that is the idea of reciprocal. So again, we are looking for a number that once multiplied by 15 over 35, the answer is equivalent to 1. So definitely the easiest way to do that is by simply having the numerator and the denominator interchange. So if you are doing that, we can now cancel out the 15 with the 15, making it 1 over 1. And also the 35 with the 35 in the denominator, so making that equal to 1. So therefore, the answer is 1. Now, that is the reciprocal. So the number that we use as a multiplier for 15 over 35 is actually the reciprocal of 15 over 35, and that is 35 over 15. And that pertains to the letter F, which means flip. So we have now 35 over 15. And the C there, okay, the C here would mean multiply, or you have to change the operation. So basically this is division, so we are now going to change that operation to multiplication. So we have 3 over 7 multiplied by 35 over 15. Now you might be wondering why we arrive at this statement, because this is originally in division, and then we have to resort to this method, which is keeping the first term, flipping the second, which means you have to get the reciprocal, and then changing it to the multiplication operation. So I will just explain to you that once you have 3 over 7 and that is being divided by 15 over 35, this is actually 3 over 7, and we can change this into a complex fraction, 3 over 7 all over 15 over 35. Okay, so this is actually the complex form of the problem that we have here. 3 over 7, and then the division here, or the fraction bar here, denotes the division that you have here, and that is all over 15 over 35. Now the idea that comes with this one is we want the denominator this time to be equivalent to 1. So what are we going to do? We will be multiplying this numerator or denominator with the reciprocal. So again, in doing that, we actually have the reciprocal of 15 over 35, and that is 35 over 15. Okay, and since we did this in the denominator, it will just be fair to do it also in the numerator. So changing now the operation of division to multiplication. So again, that becomes now 35 over 15. Okay, so what happens here? We will now have a problem wherein this will already be canceled out. So as you notice, 35 and 35 will be canceled, and 15 with the 15 will also be canceled, and that means we already have a denominator of 1. And what is left is simply the 3 over 7 and then multiplied by 35 over 15. Okay, so that is the reason why we have this rule in dividing fractions. So you have to keep the first term, so we have it here, so 3 over 7, and then change to the reciprocal, or change the divisor. Okay, or get the reciprocal of the divisor and then proceed to the opposite operation, which is multiplication. Okay, and since we already had a knowledge on your multiplication, we can now apply that. So first, you have to try to check if there are terms that you can cancel. So again, it should be a pair of a numerator and a denominator. So 3 and 7, they are relatively prime. So that will just be it. And then 35 and 15. So obviously, these two are divisible by 5. So recalling your divisibility by 5, if they end with 5, then they are divisible by 5. So if you are going to do that, this now becomes, dividing 35 by 5, this becomes 7. And then you have 15 by 5, this becomes 3. Okay, and then what did you notice? You have 7 and 7 here. So you can cancel 7 with the 7. That means equal to 1. And also the 3 with the 3. So therefore, our problem will now become equal to 1. Okay. Actually, you can also simplify. So for example, you are given this in yan, and then you have observed that 15 over 35 can be canceled, okay, or can be reduced to lowest term. So when you have 3 over 7 divided by the lowest term of 15 over 35, that is dividing 15 and 35 by 5, so you have 3 over 7. So dividing numbers, okay, when you are dividing the same numbers, the answer is always equal to 1. So the answer that you will be getting here is 1. Or following your KFC, you have to keep the first term, so 3 over 7. You have to flip or get the reciprocal, so you have 7 over 3, and change to the operation. So again, we have the answer, which is also equivalent to 1. Okay, so this also goes through even if you are dealing with your mixed numbers. So just don't forget that once you have a mixed number, remember to change the mixed number to its improper form. So suppose we have 5 and 1/3, and then we are dividing this by 2 and 2 over 7. And then there is another divisor here, which is equal to, let's say, 1 over 14. Okay. So in this case, again, we have to remember the KFC. So you have to keep and then flip and change the operation. Now, in this case wherein you have 3 given, it's only the first one that has to be kept, okay, or copied. But remember, we have to change this 3 first into a certain form wherein you simply have the numerator and the denominator. So that simply means that this improper or mixed numbers will be changed to the improper form. So if you have 5 and 1/3, definitely this will become 3 times 5, 15 plus 1. So that will become 16 over 3. Okay, and then we will still keep the division sign because we will not change the numbers into the reciprocal yet. So we have 2 and 2 over 7. So we have 14, and then this will now become 16, 16 over 7. So we have there over 7. And then again, that will be divided by 1 over 14. Okay, so if they are already expressed in terms of a numerator and a denominator, so we now follow our KFC. So keep. So we will now keep 16 over 3. And all the remaining numbers here are already considered as our divisor. So therefore, the 16 over 7 will now become 7 over 16. And this is also true with 1 over 14. This will now become 14 over 1. Okay, so here we now move or proceed to multiplication. You can use the X sign or simply the dot at the middle for our multiplication. And then let's investigate. You have 16 over 3, 7 over 16, and then 14 over 1. Okay, so there is an obvious number that we can cancel. We have here 16. So 16 will be canceled with the other 16 here. So that becomes 1. And this also becomes 1. So we only have 1, 7, 14, 3, 1, and 1. Now you might think that 7 and 14 are divisible by each other. But no, you cannot cancel both numerators. It should always be a pair of a numerator and a denominator. Okay. So 7 times 14, that is equivalent to 98. So this is now equal to 98. And multiplying the denominators, 3, 1, and 1, the answer is equivalent to 3. Now your answer here is in improper form. Therefore, again, if that is not among the choices, we have to try to change it into mixed form. So dividing 98 by 3, so we can have 3 and then 9, and 9 minus 9 is 0, so we may not write that. We have to bring down 8. Divide now 8 by 3, so that is equivalent to 2, and 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So here, you have to subtract 8 and 6, so that will give us an answer of 2. So again, the remainder becomes the numerator, while the divisor is the denominator. So our answer here is 32 and 2/3. Okay, so that is when you are dividing with mixed numbers. Do not forget to change the mixed numbers into improper form before proceeding to the division and following the method KFC. Okay, there is another method wherein you are dividing by whole numbers, fractions, and mixed numbers. So let's have a combination of this. So suppose you have here 3 and 1/3, and we are dividing this by, let's say for instance, 5, and we are dividing this also by 2 over 7. Okay. So again, all the mixed numbers will have to be changed to improper form. So having 3 and 1/3, it's just proper that this will be named first as 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So we have 10 over 3. Okay, and then like in the rule, when you have 5, that is understood to be 5 over 1, because any number divided by 1 will give you the number itself. And then, of course, the 2 over 7 will just be copied because that's just a proper fraction. Okay, after expressing all the fraction in terms of a numerator over the denominator, we can now have your KFC. So keep, so we are now copying the 10/3, and then all the remaining divisors here or numbers will have to be flipped. So we have to have 1/5 as the reciprocal of your 5. You have to remember, if you have a whole number, the reciprocal is always a unit fraction. And then you have 2 over 7, that becomes now 7 over 2. Okay, and of course, we need to change the operation to multiplication. Okay, we can now proceed to the cancellation process. So 10, 10, and 5. So we can cancel 10 with the 5, making 5 now 1, and 10, 2. Okay, because they are both divisible by 5. So we can also observe that you have 2 here and then 2. So we can still cancel that 1. Okay, so we cancel the 2 with the 2, making now this both as 1. Okay, so the numerators left are 1, 1, and 7. And getting the product of that, we have simply 7. And you can now have 3, 1, 1. The answer is equivalent to 3. So you have 7 over 3. And okay, if you can mentally solve this already, how many groups of 3's are there in 7? So there are 2, and obviously that is equivalent to 6. So 6 subtracted from 7 is 1. So the answer in mixed number is 2 and 1/3. But if you have the improper form, you can just simply have the 7 over 3. And that's the quotient of having 3 and 1/3 divided by 5 divided by 2 over 7. Okay, so those are the rules when you are dividing fractions. So for now, let's go back to the problem that we had a while ago. So during a remedial class in science, Ms. Tuangco divided 3/5 of a big chocolate bar among her students. She gave 1/10 of the chocolate to each of her students. How many students attended the remedial classes? Okay, so here there is that amount of chocolate, 3/5, which is divided in such a way that each of the student gets 1/10. So 3/5 divided by 1/10. So basically, this is just a simple division of fraction. So again, KFC, keep. So we are now getting 3 over 5. And then flip, meaning you have to get the reciprocal of 1 over 10. So that's 10 over 1. And finally, you have to change the operation division to multiplication. Okay, and through the cancellation process, okay, we can cancel 5 with the 10, making now 10 equal to 2, because they are divisible by 5, and the 5 becomes 1. So therefore, the answer to this problem is 2 times 3 is equal to 6 over 1 is simply equal to 6. So there are 6 students who shared, okay, the 3/5 chocolate, okay, and each of them gets 1/10 of the chocolate. Okay, that is how you solve our problems using division of fractions.